Hello and welcome to How to Deal with Grief and Trauma. My name is Nathalie Himmelrich. How to Deal with Grief and Trauma is completely self-funded, produced and edited by me, Nathalie Himmelrich. Consider making a small donation to support the podcast. Go to bit.ly/support, capital G, capital T, and podcast. I repeat, bit.ly/supportgt podcast. Thank you so much. And for more information, please visit Nathalie's website, join the podcast Instagram page, and subscribe to the newsletter to receive updates on future episodes. Welcome to today's episode. My name is Nathalie Himmelrich, and I'm your host. As we are slowly moving into June, I wanted to take some time to celebrate. On the 21st of June, 2022, I started this podcast. So it is going to be 4 years that I have been podcasting, and as part of that, I have prepared a mini-series. I think I love mini-series because it gives me sort of a topic, a span to think about it. So I want to welcome you to this very special mini-series. So as the podcast is turning 4 years old, I have been sitting with that number, letting it sink in, because when I launched this show in June 2022, I had no idea where it would take me or how many of you it would reach, how many of you would listen and continue to listen. And also, given the research that most podcasters stop after 3 to 5 episodes, I was just discovering how intense this really was and whether I could sustain it. So to mark this anniversary, I have pulled together the 10 most listened to episodes in the podcast history. And I'm doing something that I have never done before. I'm going to go back into each one, reintroducing the guest to you, summarizing what we talked about, and reflecting on why I think that conversation resonated the way it did. I would love to hear what you think, why it might resonate. So we're going to count down from 10 to 1. Let's start. Coming in at number 6 is this episode that I remember catching me completely off guard, in the best possible way. It is also the episode in this top 10 that is perhaps the most practical, in the sense that it introduces a specific evidence-based therapeutic approach that listeners can seek out and use. It is episode 45, and it's my conversation with Laney Rosenzweig, the developer of Accelerated Resolution Therapy, also known as ART. So I first heard about ART from a previous podcast guest, and I was intrigued enough to want to learn more. But it was only when I actually spoke with Laney that I understood the full scope of what she had created. What struck me immediately was her experimental spirit, her curiosity, and the willingness to go beyond what was already established in order to find something that worked better and faster for the people that she was trying to help. So Laney is a licensed marriage and family therapist with over 3 decades of clinical experience. And she developed ART in 2008, drawing from her experience in EMDR. So this is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, and then taking the therapeutic use of eye movements significantly further. And her training company, the Rosenzweig Center of Rapid Recovery, has trained over 8,000 clinicians in private practice and clinics across the world. She has also written a book about ART called Too Good to Be True, which is, as you will hear, both an honest reflection of how the therapy sounds to most people when they first encounter it, and a testament to what it can actually do. So the central claim of ART, and the one that gives this episode its title, is this: most past trauma can be resolved in just one session. This sounds like unbelievable, but research into ART showed that 1 to 5 sessions with an average of 3 resolved the issues studied. This is a remarkable claim, and it is one that Laney herself acknowledges sounds, as she puts it, too good to be true. So this conversation explores what ART actually is and how it works. ART is an evidence-based eye movement therapy that works by targeting the part of the brain that talk therapy cannot easily access. Unlike some approaches, the person receiving ART does not need to verbally recount their trauma in detail, and the therapist does not need to hear it. The brain does the work, guided by the therapist's protocol. The memory of what happened is not erased, but its emotional charge, the grip on the nervous system, is significantly reduced or resolved. We also explored the range of conditions ART has been shown to treat, which is broader than most people expect. These include post-traumatic stress, grief, depression, phobias, anxiety, addictions and substance abuse, eating disorders, OCD, and ADHD. The breath is part of what makes ART so relevant to this audience, which carries many of these experiences, often in combination. And what I found most compelling in this conversation was not just the clinical evidence, it was Laney's own orientation. She is pragmatic, warm, and deeply motivated by the question of what actually helps people heal, not what fits neatly into existing frameworks. That spirit comes through in every part of the conversation. And this is sort of also my personal reflection. What surprised me about ART when I first heard about it, from my understanding of trauma work, is that this can work so quickly. And listening to Laney, I was understanding the part of why it's working. And also, I think this is also what would happen to a listener who might be skeptical at hearing this claim. But if you listen to it a bit more deeply, and if you understand the basics behind somatic work and evidence-based approaches to grief and trauma, you actually get a little bit more insight. And I think this is obviously why this episode reached so many listeners, because it offers something that grief and trauma content rarely offers, like genuine hope, grounded in evidence. So not the kind of hope that says, it will get better eventually, but the kind that says, there are specific tested approaches that can help you, and they may work faster than you think. So for people who have been carrying grief or trauma for years, who have tried talking about it, who have read about it, who have done everything they feel they could, the idea that a different approach might shift something quickly is not just interesting, it is something that they need to hear. So if you're curious about ART, and whether it might be the right support for you, then I encourage you to go back and listen to the full conversation in episode 45. There's also a TEDx talk with Laney, which is also a wonderful introduction, and you can find a link in the original show notes. And if you want to be trained as an ART therapist, the ART website has a directory, or find a therapist there. All the links are to be found in the show notes. Which one was your favorite episode? I would love to hear from you. In the show notes, there's a button that says send a text. I'll read every one of your messages. Take care. Until next time. Thanks for listening to How to Deal with Grief and Trauma. If you'd like to be updated on future episodes, please subscribe to my newsletter on nathaliehimmelrich.com. If you need grief support, please contact me for a 30 minutes free discovery session. How to Deal with Grief and Trauma is produced and edited by me, Nathalie Himmelrich. To support this podcast, please rate, review, and subscribe to or follow the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you. And remember to keep breathing. I promise it will get easier.